Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Talk About Sleep, based on the book Let's Talk About Sleep. Before I talk about today's video, please like it, please subscribe, please share this with your friends and family on your social media, so on and so forth. And I thank you for watching. One thing I always tell in the beginning of these videos is this is not meant to be a medical advice channel. This is for educational purposes only. Anything that we talk about or you ask me or I say here is meant for you to learn about the condition and then talk to your provider about it. Okay? That's important to know. Okay. So with that being said, let's talk about CPAP cleaners. So in the last video, I talked about obstructive sleep apnea, and I'll have a whole video on CPAP and PAP in general down the road, but just for the sake of this, CPAP is continuous positive airway pressure. Okay, and what it is, it's a device, kind of like looks like a clock radio by itself. It sits on the nightstand, okay, and it has a long, plugged into the wall, and has a long tube, a 6-foot long tube, which then gets connected to a mask, either one that goes in the nostrils, what we call it nasal pillows, over the nose, we call it a nasal mask, or over the nose and the mouth, and we call that a full face mask. Okay, so either one of those three delivery systems, and there's different brands that do that, attached to a tube, attached to a machine. And what this machine does, and like I said, they're about the size of a clock radio these days. Not your father's CPAP, as it were, where it's huge and makes a lot of noise. These are pretty quiet and they're small. And all this machine does, whatever the brand, whatever the style, it's CPAP machine. All it's doing, or even an auto PAP machine, what they're doing is they're blowing pressurized air out, not oxygen. Okay, that's important because it's not like you're in the hospital on a ventilator. A CPAP machine is just taking pressurized air that we're breathing right now, under pressure, and it forces the pressurized air into the nose or into the nose and the mouth. That pressurized air goes in all the way down to the back of the throat, and it forces the airway open. Okay, so the last video we talked about the airway kind of closing off. This would be normal. This is when we fall asleep. Here's where snoring happens, and then here's obstructive sleep apnea. What a CPAP machine will do is basically splint that airway open with pressurized air, so the snoring goes away, but obviously more importantly, the sleep apnea goes away. Okay? Honestly, I would say CPAP is probably one of the best treatments we have in the entire field of medicine because it's just air, right? It's just pressurized air. There's no downside necessarily as far as risk, right? It can be uncomfortable, it can be, a pain to clean, which brings me to this video, but it's not going to hurt somebody per se, okay? I mean, it's very, 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 very rare for a CPAP machine to hurt somebody, but I guess in theory it could. But anyway, a CPAP machine, though, does require, because it is an interface with the body, it does require changing out parts, cleaning the parts, okay, because it can get built up with bacteria, viruses, especially now, right, with everybody's concern of COVID, okay? So there are ways to clean the CPAP machine, usually with soap and water. The supplier, those who provide the machines, they usually give people a tutorial. Once a week you want to clean it out using soap and water and whatnot, okay? But there have come to market recently CPAP cleaners, okay? And basically there's two major kinds, okay? And I don't endorse any product, and I'm not even going to mention any names, but basically there's two types of CPAP cleaners. Okay, type 1 is something which uses ozone. Okay, now ozone, we know from the environment, it protects us from UV light, right? So it's or protects us from the sun, I should say. Sun's UV light. And it's part of our atmosphere, and it gives us good protection. Okay. What ozone does, though, which is basically a formulation of oxygen, it's toxic to microbes, right? So it's toxic to bacteria and viruses and things of that nature. So it's a very good, potential cleaning agent. Now, what happens with these types of devices is there's usually like a box that you put everything in. You put the tube and the mask in, and uses blasts with ozone. Okay, and what that does, it cleans out everything. Okay, it cleans out everything. Of any bacteria or any viruses, it'll kill it. The problem, though, okay, and why some people are a little hesitant about these types of machines is because you are using ozone, and ozone can leave a smell behind, but also some people fear that it's actually toxic, okay, and can make lung issues worse. So something you have to be careful about, okay? You definitely want to discuss this with your provider. The second type is one that uses UV light. Speaking of UV light, it uses UV light, again, which is toxic to microbes, to blast them, using, within sort of a contained box, using UV light to blast the microbes. The problem with this is, UV light obviously can be dangerous to our eyes, but they usually have a fail-safe mechanism, so there's no way to be exposed to it. But what a UV light type of cleaner is doing is just getting the surface, right? So the ozone is going through the tube and getting every area where the microbes can build up, whereas a UV type of cleaner is only getting the surface area. Okay, so you may want to use other additional treatments or additional ways to clean the inner part of the tube, again with soap and water, but getting the outer parts of it, a UV is fine. So again, those are the two types of cleaners that are out there. Probably the ozone is more common. These are not FDA approved. Okay, these are not FDA regulated or approved. Okay, which is important to know. All right. What I always tell all my patients is this: I have patients who have used both. They like them. Sure, I've had other patients have problems with them. If you're somebody who wants to try it out, you have my blessing. I mean, they can be kind of expensive, anywhere from, $100 to a couple $100. Do they work? Yes, they do. Are they needed? Absolutely not. And if you're somebody who's, really has bought into CPAP and is fastidious about using it and cleaning it, you really should have no problem, COVID included. All right, but if you want to use these things, they're out there. Like I said, I've had good patients with good experiences. I've had patients with, the ozone smell bothers them. So, there's pluses and minuses with everything, right? So just take that for what it's worth. Personally, I think that if you just use soap and water and we're very consistent and good with cleaning it, you really should not have any problems whatsoever. All right, so that's the video for today. My book on Amazon. Please click like. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share this with your friends and family and those who may be considering one of these devices. Again, I'm not recommending it or not recommending it. I'm just telling you guys the facts. All right. So please ask questions in the comment section. Until next time, sleep well.